Hi guys, welcome to my channel today. So thank you for stopping by, and in today's tutorial I'll be sharing with you guys how to make this blouse that overlaps at the back. So if this is something you're interested in learning how to make, continue watching this video and not skip any part of this video. So here are the materials needed in the achieving of this blouse. So I have 2 years of this fabric here with me, and I have my pattern paper and my ruler as well. So from that top area, that's where all my measurements will be starting from, and that will be my shoulder line. So I'll start by marking 3/4 of an inch. I'll make these dots across, and I'm just going to use my straight ruler and connect all of these dots with a straight line. So I'll go ahead and divide my shoulder 14 inches into 2, and I have 7 inches plus half inch for sewing allowance, and altogether I mark 7.5 inches. So because this dress is not going to have any zipper or whatsoever, I'm going to mark 3.5 inches as my neck width. So for my neck depth, because I don't want it too deep, I'm just simply going to mark like 3 inches. So I actually want a high neck at this point. So I'm going to connect this like this, and I already have my neckline. So the next thing is to mark down from my shoulder line. I'm going to mark my armhole of 8 inches. I'll make a dot there, and I'm going to use my straight ruler to extend that line a bit. So after that, now I'm going to connect that point from my shoulder line down to where my armhole depth stopped. So I'll just go ahead now and extend that line to the edge of my paper. So that line here is my chest line, okay? So under my armhole line, I'm going to take the measurements, and I'm going to divide it into 2 equal halves, and that is 4 inches. I made a point right there, and at that point I'm going to come in by half of an inch, just as you see here. Then on my chest line, I'm dividing my bust into 4, and I have 9.5 inches. So I went ahead to make a point right there. So I'm going to connect from my shoulder line to that dot and to the other dots on my chest line. Hope you understand what I'm doing right here. So having done this, the next thing I'll do is to get my half length on my waistline of 16 inches. So I'm just going ahead now to mark it right there. And the next thing I'll mark is my top length, and the top length I worked with is 22 inches. So I'll add extra 1 inch for my hemming allowance. So I'll use my straight ruler and connect all these dots into a straight line. So I'll go ahead and label my half length, my full length, and my allowance, or my hemming allowance. So having done all of that now, I'll go ahead now to divide my half length of 1 inch, and my half length of 33 inches, and I'll add extra 1 inch to all this my measurements taken, because I actually want this dress to be a free blouse. So with the 1 inch I added is for it to be a bit free and not for my sewing or stitching allowance. So I'll repeat the same on my full length, and I'm going to mark that right there, as you can see. So here I have my waist circumference of 33 inches divided into 4. I have 8.25, so I marked 9.25. So after all of that, I went ahead to connect all of these lines together. Using my curved rule, I went ahead to blend in that sharp edge, because we don't want it sharp at the end of the day when we are done stitching this blouse. So after all of this now, I'll go ahead and add just 1 inch, which will be for my seam or stitching allowance. So after this now, I'll use my ruler to connect the same way I connected the previous line, and I'll also use my curve rule to blend in that sharp edge. So you can see what I have here. So I'll just go ahead now and give this a bit curve. So from that area, from that point, I went up by 1.5 inches. I made a mark right there, and I'll just use my curve ruler to give this a bit curve. So you can see what I have. So the next, I move over to my shoulder line, because we're not giving this a shoulder slope yet. So I went up by half of an inch, and I'll just connect this into the other part of my shoulder, and we'll have a shoulder slant or slope. So the next thing I went ahead to do is to cut out this the actual way that I drafted it, okay? So I moved over to the back part to draft for the back part of this blouse, and I started off first by marking 5 inches from the edge of my paper, just as you see me doing right here. So I went ahead to connect this using my marker and my straight ruler. So from that 5 inches I marked from that line, I'm just going to place my front drafted bodies, and you can see I'm cutting exactly the way I drafted out. The only difference is that this placement of my front bodice actually started from the 5 inches which I marked. So I went ahead to cut every other thing the same way, both the neckline and every other thing. So please pin yours down the front to the back so yours don't shift, because you can see at this point I start pinning this down so I don't make a mistake. So I went ahead to maintain the same neckline for the back, and once I'm done, I'll remove the front bodice, and I'm also going to go ahead now to give this a curve. So from that edge, I'm just going to divide my waist circumference into 4, and I have 8 1/4, which I marked right there. So because I'll be stitching in with 1/2 inch, I'm going to add extra 1/2 inch to this because I don't want this to open at my back. So from that point, from the top area, you see how I'll connect this. I'm going to connect from that top area, that's from my neck opening there, down to the 8 1/2 inches which I came in by on this top. So here is actually where the overlapping effect is going to take place. So after connecting this, I'll just go ahead now and cut this out. So if you actually want the back of your blouse to be very open, you can actually go ahead and just mark 3 inches or 2 inches, but I want mine really covered and to overlap very well. So after cutting this out, this is what I have for the front and the back. So I'll proceed to cut this on my actual fabric. So here it is, I've cut this on my fabric, and you can see how nice it's looking on fold. And for the back part, you can see that at that area which is going to overlap, I went ahead to add 1/2 inch because I'm going to be folding that part. Okay, so having explained that, now on that area where my 5 inches started from, I went ahead to also nudge it. So that's just simply it, and I'll go ahead now to unpin all of this. So after unpinning, I'll spread this out for you to see what it looks like, and this is exactly what it looks like right here. So the first thing I'm going to do is to fold the parts which I cut out. That's for the overlapping side. I'm going to fold it in. I'm going to fold it in by 1/4 inch first and fold it for the second time, and I'm going to run a stitch across from the top all the way to my full length. So you can see right here. So after doing that, this is what I have. Please go ahead and iron these flat, and after that, now I'm just going to bring these 2 back bodies together, and I'm just going to get the notched parts, and I'm going to make sure that I place them facing each other just like this, and I'll go ahead and pin. So I'm going to pin both sides of this dress. Okay, so just watch carefully what I'm doing, even if you don't understand my explanation. So you can see what I have here. After pinning, you can see what I have is already overlapping each other right here. So I'm going to pin this, and after pinning, I'll go ahead now and stitch this, but please arrange this properly before stitching. So I'll stitch this down, and I've done that. I can see what it looks like. So the next thing I went ahead to do is to cut out a piece, and for the wideness of this piece I cut is 1 1/2 inches. So I'm going to use it to pipe the neckline area of these back bodies. So you can see how I'm pinning from my shoulder all the way to my neck and to the other part of my shoulder. So after pinning this, I'll stitch first of all, and I'm going to cut off the excesses later on. So after stitching, I'll go ahead and fold this in again, and that's for my piping of my neckline. So I repeated the same procedure for my neck, for my front dress or for my front blouse, and I piped the neckline as well. So you can see how nice this is looking already. Go ahead and give this a very cool pressing, and you're good to go. So the next thing I'll do is to join the shoulder. That's for the front and the back dress. I'm going to join the shoulder together, and after joining, I'll pin this down first, and I also pin down the sides of this dress. And after pinning, remember that 1 inch sewing allowance was given to this blouse while drafting. So after pinning this, I'm just carefully going to mark 1 inch at the size of this blouse, because that was the inch I left for my sewing or stitching allowance. So you can see what I have right here. So after marking this from beginning to end, I'll go ahead now and join my shoulder and also join the sides of this my dress. So I'll quickly do this after marking my 1 inch seam allowance, and I'll come back here and show you what I have. So you can see that this top is almost ready. So I discovered I have a little excess from the back of my dress. I went ahead to trim it off a bit, so you can see that's not an issue or anything. So after this, I'm cutting off these unwanted threads, and after that you can see how nicely this blouse is already looking. So I'm already having this beautiful shape, even well I'm not yet done. So behind the camera I drafted a basic sleeve, and I also went ahead to notch the midpoint. So I placed the notch midpoint with my shoulder of my dress, and I will go ahead now and pin this at both sides. So I'm going to pin from my end to the other and stop at the armhole area. And once I'm done with one part, I'll go ahead and pin the other side. So after pinning this, before stitching down the sleeve, I'll go ahead and hem the base first using 1/2 inch. You can see what the illustration I'm trying to give here. So after that, which I'll go ahead to also bring these two pieces together like this, I'm going to mark my the circumference of my sleeve, which is 6.5 right here, and I'll go ahead now and join and make sure that it connects with the line of the 1 inch on my dress. So that's simply how to do this. I'll do all of this now and show you the outcome. So here it is. I actually made this dress into a 2-piece, and I have this tutorial on how to make the short pants on my channel. So if you're here to watch it, please kindly do so. So you can see how beautiful and how free this dress is on me, and you can see that my back is not too open. So that is basically it. Thank you all so very much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, like and share. Thank you for always coming right here to watch this channel. God bless you all. Bye.